and welcome to Tetewatháren Partyline Talkshow. I'm your host, Lou Ann Stacey, and today is MCK Friday. So for the second half of the show, we'll have Chief Carl Horn on, and we'll be talking about a number of issues from housing to the Kahnawake issue, hydro, multi-dwelling, the ball field. We'll touch a whole bunch of topics. But joining me first, right now, live in studio, is Chief Lindsay LeBorgne. Welcome.
How you doing, Lou Ann?
Very good. How are you feeling? You haven't been back that long.
No, I was out for anybody that didn't know. I was out for 10 weeks. I tore my my left knee, meniscus, and ligaments, and I was off for 10 weeks. And I've been back now. This is going to be my 5th week, and so I was sort of out of the loop for 10 weeks. And anyway, I'm back now. And so they said, you haven't been on the radio lately, so you
got nominated?
I was nominated. It wasn't really a nomination. It was,
like being told.
Yeah, you haven't been here, so get on the radio. So,
that's great. So you have any updates for us?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that are percolating in town. I think one of the things that everybody's been talking about, and there's been so much confusion, is about the Indian day school issue. And Joe Norton has just come back from Winnipeg. He gave a statement supporting the issue. There were some people from town that were in opposition. I don't think they were in opposition for that anybody getting compensation. I think it was how the thing is rolled out by the feds. It was sort of like we were sort of blindsided. They've been doing this out west, from what we were told, for quite a while, and then they came here. When Kahnawake has the second most amounts of children in schools that were in the Indian system, school system. So we were a little bit perplexed to that. They said they meant no offense, but they figured they'd save the places that had the most for last. So that was their strategy. And you have to take them at their word. They're trying to do the right thing. Anyway, what I wanted to say was a lot of people were under the misconception that if they didn't sign a document that supported this and have it in by, I think it was the 13th of May, that they weren't going to be able to claim. However, that was only just to say, I support us receiving money for that. Now, once this hearing is over, well, actually it's over. It was over on the 15th. And then they decide to go ahead with it. We're going to have 2.5 years to get your documents, pictures, whatever things that you can go to get to prove that you were in one of these schools. And then how much money you get depends on the severity of what you feel or what happened to you. The base sum is $10,000 for anybody that went to school from the 1920s to so I think it's September of '88 is the deadline. That's when we took over all our schools. And so it varies, or how much is going to be available, depending on if you were abused in any way other than, corporal punishment type thing, over and above that.
Right.
So.
Okay.
I just wanted to clear that up, because I had people calling, my family members were calling saying, I got to get this in. What do I got to do? And I said, relax. This is only to, support it. That's all.
Because they said once they got the announcement, or once they got the decision, then it was going to open up, and then that's when people were supposed to apply.
This hearing was to have people come forward and say, I support it, I don't support it, and the reasons why.
Right.
And then the court, I guess, will decide, okay, we're going to go ahead with this, depending on. That's why they ask people to support it, if you support it.
Yeah.
So I will find out shortly, I would imagine, and then, according to what I've been told, there'll be a 2.5-year period to apply. Originally, it was only 1, but I think as a result of people going forward, like Joe, and telling them we think we need more time, we definitely tell people when it does come available, we'll let
people
the community know.
Yeah.
Also, the company that's doing the litigation is called Gowlings, WLD. At some point, they're going to be coming to town and at a meeting and here to explain anything that anybody would like to, any questions they would like to ask. So to help people, and then we'll have all these things filled out. Hopefully everybody will be happy, and I mean, happy that you sort of got restitution for.
And it's not going to be much, and it's not, but
not
and
really
it's never going to make up for
things,
it. No.
I mean, think about it. If you were denied learning how to speak our language, I mean, $10,000 is nice, but guess what? I would rather
have the
speak our language
for
than
sure.
have the $10,000.
For sure.
And I think that's what most people. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. I can't believe that that anybody wouldn't
feel that way.
Wouldn't
for sure.
want to be able to speak our language. I mean.
Okay. Do you have other topics? I have a list, so just in case you.
All right. Well, no. I just wanted to touch on a few things because, like I said, I've been hearing it. You see Facebook. We're going to be having people on the river, underneath, around the Mercier Bridge, because that there's talk of. Fixing the bridge and adding, making a lane and doing away with the present lanes that are there. Anyway, before they could do any of that, they have to look at the fish study underneath and around the bridge because they're spawning areas for sturgeon. So we're going to have some people from our environment office, people that do that, I guess the Department of Fisheries, people that do that all the time. And we're going to have a local boatman. So it's going to be half the people on the boat will probably be local. So if anybody sees anybody out there doing that, it's people from town. So, and it's for our own fisheries. There's been a lot of, just to touch on it again, there's been a lot of concern about, they're building a brand new bridge. Well, yes and no. Just so, I wanted to tell people. On the other side of the river, the other side of the seaway, that's called the North Wall.
Right.
What they're going to be building only goes up to there and then goes up to LaSalle. Not the whole bridge, not the whole span. And it's going to be like several lanes. I don't know how they're going to configure it, but it's not going to take up any more land. It'll take up about the same amount of land it's taking up now. And when it's done, those other bridges will be torn down.
Okay.
So I know there was a concern about they're going to take more of our land. No, they're not. We don't know exactly what it looks like because they're still out to tenders for architects to design. So we don't know what it's going to look like because one hasn't been picked yet.
Okay.
When we know, the community will know. But I just want to allay people's fears that we're getting a whole brand new bridge. No,
we're not.
They just spent, God knows, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars fixing, the infrastructure that's over the seaway and the on-ramps and all that. They're not going to tear that all down now. Just the other side is, it's actually the provincial side.
Yes.
The federal side is well taken care of. The province didn't take care of their side. I don't want to say why, but, they spent money on a lot of other things when they should have been taking care of the bridge.
Okay, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Tetewátáren, Partyline Talk Show. I'm your host, Lou Ann Stacey, and today is MCK Friday, and I will be joined in the second part by Chief Karl Horn, but in studio with me right now is Chief Lindsay LeBorgne. So I see your list, so where are we at in terms of your topic?
Well, I just wanted to finish with the bridge, and I mentioned the sturgeon spawning study. It's extremely important because sturgeon are a species that is in decline, actually. And so we're very concerned that the species is protected in our territories. I guess, again, I don't want to go too far into it, but for people who don't know, sturgeon only start reproducing after they're 25 years old. So, you're catching them before that, then they're never reproducing, so we're not getting another generations of sturgeon. So anyway, that study is going to be 2 years approximately. And it adds to a prior study in 2001, 2003. So, and no sturgeon will be harmed in doing this, by the way, just so everybody knows.
I have a question from a listener. Is the work that's going to be done on the bridge going to be by 100% native content, unlike the hospital?
Well, I think we would strive and we would love that we have 100% native content. There are always specialties in everything. I can't speak for the hospital, but I being an iron worker, an ex-iron worker right now myself, there are always specialties that you may not have someone that could do certain things. Now, don't get me wrong, our guys do everything, but there's
Practically.
always something that's a specialty. So I think if it's not 100%, it'll be 95 or
Right.
more plus of native word. That's the way I'm looking at it. Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
perfect.
Yep. Okay, another thing I would like to touch on is I think it's going to happen, but it's being studied. The water and sewer replacement of the sewage plant down by the town garage, and the town garage is they're looking at replacing the water and the sewer plant and moving it. Well, again, like the other side of the seaway, it's called the North Wall.
Right.
A bigger plant on that side of the river in a couple of years. We're going to be meeting with Frank Deere over at the water and sewer guys, and he's going to be explaining to us exactly what they're looking at doing. And the town garage is also supposed to be moved. You know where Snake's place is on 132? On the Seaway, again, on the Seaway side there. It's supposed to be like pretty much directly across from him. And again, we don't have all the information on that, but Frank Deere is going to meet us on June 4th to fill us in more on that. So just so people, don't be surprised if you hear about the sanitation, water sanitation is going to be moved. Right now, our community is getting larger. We're almost at capacity, or we're exceeding almost capacity as far as how much our sewage system can handle. So, for future growth, we have to have a bigger sewage plant. So that's what's being looked at. And the town garage, it's really not really a very attractive site right there where it is. And that's why they're going to be moving it out to the 132. And that area is supposed to be beautified, from what I understand after that. Trees, maybe like the other side near the radio station, trees, green space. That's what's being talked about right now. Okay, so we touched on that.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, for your information, the service road going from the tunnel underneath the Mercier Bridge is going to be closed on May 21st to May 31st. There's going to be an inspection platform put underneath the Mercier Bridge, so they can't have anybody going under there. Now, it could be finished before that. Inclement weather might push that back. I mean, there's a dozen things that could happen, but those are the dates that we've been given for that. Let me see. I wanted to talk on the ATVs.
Yes.
I know it's, maybe we could have waited a little longer, but I think it's very important because we've been receiving a lot of calls to the office saying that, hey, I'm walking on the path, and here comes an ATV. And then, according to the people, they're not slowing down. Like, you have to jump out of their way. Even a truck. We were told by a woman pushing a stroller. A truck was coming down there with a couple of guys in it, and they wouldn't move. The guy told the woman, I just washed my truck, so I don't want to get off on the dirt. So she had to get off the walking path, and this truck went by. Anyway, it's stories like that, it's getting a little bit ridiculous. Somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We always say that.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get hurt. Before that happens, we've spoke to safety, Lloyd Phillips, and the peacekeepers, and they assure us that something is being done, some sort of strategy is being formulated, and they're going to work to cut down on that kind of thing. But it is getting out of hand. I mean, I've seen it myself. It's not for that. You're going to ruin the walking path, by driving on it.
And there are lots of people who are using our walking path.
I know.
Lots.
I
Kids
know.
and parents. And
Exactly. And I mean, come on, you got to jump out of the way. I don't get it. I don't get the way the thinking on this is. It's just not right.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Go down your list. He's got a long list, so.
All right. Well, this is something that's sort of time sensitive. I guess you've heard about it, the Mohawk/Irish scholarship.
Yes.
It's very interesting. It's for anybody 20 years old and older student that's on the Kahnawake registry. You'll be going to Ireland to learn Gaelic I mean, it's not a long time. It's only a couple of weeks. It's from May 31st to June 19th. But all your living expenses, your transportation, tuition, all that's going to be covered. Just put an application in and drop it off at the MCK, or speak to Gus at the office. And the deadline for that is May 22nd. So if you're interested in that, I think it's a good life experience for anybody to go, especially to Europe. Very beautiful over there in Ireland. And it's being paid for. So
I know you can't beat that for sure.
No, good experience. And I'm told that you could transfer whatever credits you get over to your resume on this side of the pond.
It's a nice opportunity.
Beautiful opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that's never traveled, now's your chance to. The only thing with that is, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess you better have a passport available.
I would assume.
Yeah, you can't get on a plane. So, I mean, I think that might sort of limit that. Yeah. But anyway, that will be a necessary thing if you're chosen.
In the coming weeks, I'm going to have to talk to Kenneth Deere. I'm going to find out.
Yeah, I mean,
it'd just be interesting.
I know that some people travel on our, the passports, but
and some countries will take it, not all. So
maybe Ireland would, because I mean, we know that they've had problems with the British.
Yeah, and, so maybe who knows?
Maybe they would be more understanding.
For sure.
Okay. Let me see, what else do I have here? Just to touch on it, last week I was out at between the 207 and the 138 where we had all those fires.
I was going to ask you about that. Just
off the train, the old it was turned over to CSX, which in itself was wrong. It was expropriated from us for a certain purpose. So they didn't need it any longer. The way the law is supposed to be. Anytime that you expropriate something and it's no longer needed, it's supposed to revert back to the original owner. Canada, again, I hate to say it, they're looking out for our interest. They didn't do that. They sold it to an American company. I think they're based in Florida, CSX Rail. Anyway, the tracks were taken out 15 years ago. And now people use that to get into the back. It's a nice roadway on the old track bed. Somebody has been starting fires. There was no lightning strikes at those times, so that's why they're pretty sure it was due to humans setting the fires. And I would like to ask if anybody's listening, please, it could lead to a tragedy. Firemen have to rush there, They could crash. A guy could fall. Fireman could fall off. There's 50 things that could happen. And on top of that, when they fought that fire, sure enough, somebody got hurt.
Yep.
It was at night. It's swampy. You can't see, and the fire turned back on the firemen, like it came behind them. So if they got caught there, I mean, somebody could potentially die. So it's very serious. I think it's been lifted now as far as having fires and things like that. But starting fires in these old bulrushes and all these other things, too dangerous. Please stop it. If you do get caught doing it, you will be prosecuted. So
it's not good, because it could spread to someone's home, and
Absolutely.
we have so many homes on the outside.
It's not like before.
No.
People are living, in the interior of town, not just in the village anymore. So you have to be very careful.
Anything else?
Well, if you,
I have a question.
Said you wanted to
I
ask
want
me
to ask you a
right?
question.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of a thing that's happening now within the community, it's on the issue of drinking and driving.
Yes.
And we're starting to see an increase, even though we have education programs and we have the Kahnawake peacekeepers who are doing spot checks and things. Incidents are still happening. And I guess I'm asking leadership, I'm going to ask Carl the same question. What do we do as a community? Because, for me, I'm thinking back when I was younger, it was a scary thing that on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, you would be wondering, did someone hit the tunnel? Did somebody, accidents, this? And we lost a lot of people, younger people, older people. It wasn't
Absolutely.
nice. And then the years have gone by and we've gotten better. And now we have all kinds of taxi services that are out at night. We have tons of resources, but we're starting to see an increase again. What do we as a community need to do?
Well, I think that being said, I think you could say as well as I do, it's nothing like it was before.
No.
Every weekend, I mean, you could vouch for me.
I know.
In I would say almost in every one of our clubs, there was a dance. Almost every club had a dance.
Yeah.
So, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you had, at least 50, 60, 100 people driving around after spending 6-7 hours in the club, It was a dangerous situation. People would... to me, I remember more people getting killed every year than now.
Yeah.
It is much lower.
But we're starting to see it increase, and we're only in May.
There's a slow increase. I think you're correct.
Yeah.
Having lived by the tunnel, too, I used to hear them hit the tunnel.
That's why I brought that up.
We'd hear the crash, and then, my mother, my grandfather, they pick up the phone and call the police. Somebody hit the tunnel. But... now we have another added thing. Now cannabis is a legal substance, and so now we have people that have more frequently, I would say, probably accessing cannabis. They're drinking. There's other drugs out there. I don't want to go into, but I think we all know there's other drugs out there that people are doing. Maybe because we haven't had as many fatalities as we used to. It's sort of faded from memory, but unfortunately, we know we just had one.
Yeah.
Horrible, and my condolences to the family and friends and children, if any. You have to. I guess you have to lead by example. And you can't have anybody in leadership position. I'm not just talking about people in the council. People in any of our leadership positions or any of our institutions. You have to be more. You have to be holier than thou, if you don't mind me putting that way.
But I think a lot of responsibility goes on the people who are serving to ensure to take keys away, to contact taxi people.
Absolutely.
A lot of the taxis, and we have plenty of taxis in this community that are there, just have to be called.
Yep.
The other part, I don't think people are saying not to enjoy yourself. It just be responsible because you're hurting other people, other people's properties.
Absolutely.
There was a car that was damaged,
It happens. It happens every weekend or every day, maybe. I'm not privy to all the just what you read in the police blotter.
Paper, yeah.
But the police blotter is like 6 or 7. I mean, the police are on 24/7, and a lot more things happen than we all hear about on the police blotter. Being older than a lot now, I've seen the community go from Fireman's Field Day, which was
that's true too. Yeah,
which was it got out of hand. Let's put it that way. It was bad. So they haven't done that since the last time, and I happened to have been a peacekeeper back then.
That's exactly.
And it was insane that night. There was only two in those days. There were usually only 2 officers on for the whole town. I mean, think about that. We still had the bridge and the highways, but we only had 2 policemen to police the whole town, to police the highways, etc. And it was just insane that night. I remember my partner was J.K. Dibo at the time.
Yes.
And it was crazy. After that, the powers that be put an end to that. We haven't had one since. Maybe like 81 or something.
Yeah.
82. It's been a long time since we had one of those.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I think there's been more education. People understand now. It's not a joke. You get caught drunk driving.
And under the influence of anything.
Yes, I'll just put it that way. Yes. Under the influence of any mind-altering substance.
Yeah.
You could go to jail. You lose your license. You spend. It's going to be thousands of dollars in legal fees, fines. I mean, it's your car's seized. It's just it's not worth it to. You're basically like ruining your life there for X amount of maybe a year or 2, whatever it takes to get your license back, and then they could also make you put one of those alcohol meters in your car.
Absolutely.
Which they have to pay for that at your expense.
Yeah.
Like you put it in, to have it installed.
Plus, your insurance goes up, and they don't want to insure you if you have that device in the car.
Those devices end up costing you a couple $1,000 from what I understand, and it's your responsibility. So it's just a mess, to get involved, a nightmare to get involved in that. Stay away from it.
I had one questioner from a community. We have about a minute left. The caller wanted to know if people can still make fires along the river. An example, Fishing Derby, Turtle Island, Bay Area last weekend. Many people made fires, then they just let them go out without putting the fire out. The fire ban is lifted. Is it still allowed for them to make fires and leave them?
You know what? I've done it before myself, fishing, and you make a fire. Don't use tires. We don't use tires anymore. Scrap wood, scrap lumber is good. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you have to be conscious of where you're making the fire. If you're making a fire right next to a whole bunch of dry, tinder, that's not a good deal. Move it away from anything around it. And when you're done, maybe bring a shovel with you or something and shovel dirt on top of it. Don't leave an open fire there. Very dangerous. I know the fire ban has been lifted, but that doesn't mean to be reckless or to not pay attention to what you're doing. Be aware, be responsible. And you know what? It's a good practice, as being an ex-Boy Scout myself, leave the property as you found it,
And I think that's the bottom line, is taking responsibility. Thank you, Lindsay, for coming in.
Jeez,
I truly appreciate that. Was very quick. And thank you for coming in.
It's always a
I'm
pleasure.
glad you're now back to work. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Thank you. Anna.
Graduates of
Welcome back to Tetewátáren, Partyline Talk Show. I'm your host, Lou Ann Stacey, and joining me for the second part of the show for MCK Friday is Chief Karl Horn. Karl, welcome. This is close. This is the closest we've had interviews in a long time.
Thanks for having me again.
Lots going on. Let's talk a little bit about housing and the multi-dwelling.
We had a meeting with open invitation to all the contractors. We gave a presentation, just a real quick history for the community. Since I took on the housing portfolio, I wanted to see some major changes there, and one of them was to address the conditions at the council apartments. They were built in two phases in the early 80s and then finished in the late 80s. So it's been almost close to 30 years that they've been there. So we had to make an attempt to start repairing some of them, because some of them are in bad shape. And so we made a presentation to Chief and Council, and Chief and Council committed a minimum of $1 million to address the repairs that are needed at the council apartments. To be honest with you and to be blunt, it's embarrassing that our community owned those apartments and we never maintained them and took care of them for our people. So we gave a presentation in early May to all the contractors, because for me, the main goal from my perspective is to make sure we hire as many of our contractors and community members out there to do the work. So we want to keep it in-house as much as possible. Obviously, there's some expertise that are needed from externally outside the community, but right from day one, my main goal is to put as many as of our contractors and our community members to work on this project. So we're hopefully, Davis Montour is in the process of creating, I guess, a tendering to put out to all the contractors, and they're more than welcome to put a bid in. And like I said, I want to make sure we hire as many of our people as possible to do the work.
When are they looking to start?
Right now, we're probably early summer, so we're looking at sometime in, like I said, Davis is preparing the tendering, I guess, the contract itself. So that's going to be put out.
Some of them are pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, they've been there for 30 years, and MCK, being the landlord or the owners, never really, maintained them or took care of them. So, like I said earlier, since I've been on housing, I want to see some changes to the housing and how we do business. And the first thing is to address the immediate needs, which is the deteriorating conditions of the council apartments. So, I mean, we have families there, community members there. I'm hoping there's not mold issues, stuff like that.
I think in some apartments there are, from what I heard.
Once they get in there and do the work, like I said, we have our people that are living there, so we have to take care of them.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Kahnawake and how that's going.
Yeah, community members well aware that we formed a subcommittee to give another brief history on it. The lease expires 2021 with an automatic renewal of 25 years, which Kahnawake has chose to invoke. So right now our task is to try and negotiate a fair amount for the individual lot holders as well as community, because community does own 8 acres. So recently we formed a subcommittee, and we've been meeting on a monthly basis to determine how we're going to approach negotiations moving forward, because we have sort of, I'm not going to say a concrete deadline, but we're looking at midsummer to start talking about a dollar amount with a deadline of December 2020. If we can't come to some sort of agreement, then we have no choice but to go to arbitration, which we don't want to do because then it's out of our hands. So we want to make sure we get a fair dollar amount,
yes,
that we can present to community. And the subcommittee, which is consists of Mike Diable, Clint Goodleaf, Joanne Patton, Suzanne Lahesh, Claire Patton, and Bernard Malash. So those were the individuals that volunteered to form the subcommittee. So they're going to report back to the lot holders. So when we're able to come up with a dollar amount, they're going to make a presentation to the lot holders, and we'll make one to not only chief and council, but to the community as a whole.
But at least there's something consistent in place, because you would never hear what's going on with Kahnawake like for long periods of time, and then all of a sudden you would hear something. So having something in place to me makes more sense.
Yeah. Like I said, since the beginning of this term, even last term, the biggest thing for us is transparency with community.
Yeah.
I want to make sure they're involved every step of the way, so they can't say that they weren't aware.
Absolutely.
Because we know the history of the last signing of the lease. The community wasn't aware of some of the stuff in the lease, so I want to make sure community is well informed every step of the way, including, and most importantly, the landholders. So that's
and
why
there's quite a few landholders.
Yeah, there's over 70.
Yeah,
there's
that's
over
a lot.
70. Yeah,
that's a lot. Okay, quickly, we're moving on here. Hydro.
Yep, hydro. Everybody's well aware of the agreement we signed last summer. There's some financial details that we can't disclose to community due to confidentiality stuff. But the biggest thing for in the agreement, it was the dismantlement of Line 2. So,
and where's Line 2?
That's running from, I guess you know Patton's Golf Club.
Oh yeah,
almost near to Chateauguay to the Seaway.
Oh, okay.
It crosses over 132. So there's about 20 towers in total. So we're meeting with hydro reps next week to schedule a work plan on how this work's going to be carried out. But most importantly, I want to make sure we hire as many of our community members as possible to do the work. Obviously, there's some expertise that you need certain certification, but we're going to do everything in our power to make sure we get as many of our people working to do the work. So we're working with labor, in conjunction with labor, and maybe they will Zakta down the road to probably hopefully provide some training, because when the work does start, I want to make sure we have crew members that are well trained and willing and able to go to work.
It's a really good timing, because they had that workshop last Friday for the tradespeople, looking for training different people in different trades. And I spoke to some people who were in attendance, and they were really surprised that there was that much work, and, guys were willing to take training. Yeah. So there is a possibility, very quickly of getting some people that could do that.
Because based on the agreement, which we signed in, I think, July or August of 2018, so almost a year ago. In the agreement itself, there's a stipulation that the lines have to be removed by 2021. So we're fast approaching. So we're hopefully this time next year, there's a lot of planning that has to go along with it, because some of the towers, like I said, even cross the highway. So how that's going to work, I don't know. Some of it's on private property. A couple of the golf courses could be affected. So we have to coordinate a schedule where when the courses are closed, so it's less impact on their business. So, I mean, stay tuned. Like I said, we have a meeting
Keep an
next.
update,
Yeah,
eh?
we have a meeting next week with the hydro reps. We're going to go into detail, scheduling wise, and make sure labor wise to put as many of our people to work.
Yeah, that would really be nice. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Tetewatháren, Partyline Talk Show. I'm your host, Lou Ann Stacey, and today is MCK Friday, and I'm joined by Chief Karl Horn. We've discussed a little bit on housing, a little bit about the Kahnawake settlement, and some of the things going on behind there. We just talked about hydro, and maybe we could talk a little bit about the baseball field, the new field, and they started work this week.
Yep, I was
Very
on your,
exciting.
Yeah, I was on your show there, I guess, a month ago.
Yeah.
About the major announcement from the great donation from the Toronto Blue Jays. We were able to secure $80,000. That was last year. We made a presentation to Chief and Council, the Sports and Recreation Unit, and they committed dollars to a new baseball field here because we have a lot of our older ball players had to play home games in Chateauguay or elsewhere outside the community. So we felt the need to construct a new field. So that's what we're doing now. And due to the weather and stuff like that, they're just starting now. So community can be, I'm sure they're gonna witness it transpire over the next couple of months. We're hoping by the end of June it's complete.
I know, speaking to one of the Bantam coach, and he was saying that they scheduled their first game for here around June 20-something. So I'm hoping that the weather cooperates so they can actually play their first game.
You know how construction goes. It's a hit and a miss sometimes, especially when it comes to weather. So tentatively, we're hoping by the end of June to have that field lights and everything, and be a nice home opener, or a nice maybe
nice ceremony.
Nice ceremony for sure when it comes to that field being done. And not only that, for the soccer players as well. So there's going to be lights, and there's going to be a new field for soccer.
The post removed for soccer that I saw was already done. So that I guess no impact on
no. Like I said, it's hard to address everybody's needs. We're doing our best to address the collective. So we're definitely we definitely have the soccer parents and soccer kids in our minds when it comes to the reconfiguration of that area. So we're going to do our best to accommodate everybody.
Are there any other topics?
Yeah, just quickly, everybody's well aware that the Kahnawake Mixed Softball League just started last week. Was our first game.
You added a team.
Yeah,
correct?
we added one team now. Currently, there's 7. JFK sponsored the team, so that's good. But more importantly, is the new stuff we have at the field with the new bleachers, and now there's Wi-Fi, and some of the games are actually filmed. So there's a lot of good stuff from the new commissioner, which is Neil McCumber. I had it for 8 years, got it going, and it's time for a new voice with new ideas, and this is what we came up with.
And he's on the ball because I know he was looking for scorekeepers, asked if I was available, but I had just made a commitment to one of the minor baseball teams, so I told him I'll check schedule. If it's not, I wouldn't mind helping out.
But we're hoping come when the weather gets nice again, we have a lot of crew members that out there watching, especially with the new bleachers. It's beautiful. It's a nice, like I said, a nice generous donation from Kahnawake Gas and Grocery. So once again, a big nyawa go to Ryan Montour, Gane McGregor, and Gawiz McCumber, who coordinated the whole project and constructed it from start to finish. So once again, once the weather gets nice, we're hoping a lot of crew members come out and watch.
I was told that's the best place to watch because the shorter bleachers, you miss some spots. The ones along the fence, the backstop, were not very good. Like they're not good for viewing. And they said those are the best seats at the field. So that's what I was told by someone who went to watch a game the other night. On a quick note, we've been having some issues within the community with regards to drinking and driving. And next week, I'm planning on doing an open line show. And I guess I wanted to ask, I spoke to Lindsay earlier, and I want to ask you, what are some of the things that we as a community need to do? Because it's getting very... it's going back to maybe when I was a teenager, starting to happen more more and more? We had a
Well,
death
obviously, you got to be
recently.
proactive, education, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's always a difficult thing to deal with,
And
especially
I thought for years we were doing so good, then all of a sudden now it's like it's back again, you know?
especially in a small community. But
Yeah.
like I said, with the recent situation, I don't want to jump to conclusions. We don't know all the
No,
facts
we
when it
don't
comes to
know.
it. But it's definitely something that KSES is doing their best. The
Yeah.
peacekeepers do their best. It's just like I said, prevention, education. Be proactive and then go from there.
Because it's kind of scary when it starts back and we're only in May. You know, and I'm thinking when I was young, maybe 17, 18, you know, you'd wake up Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I wonder what happened, who hit the tunnel, those kinds of things. And for years and years, it was going pretty good. But we're hearing more and more incidents again. And as a community, we have to stop, you know, it's preventable stuff. You know, if it wasn't preventable things, you know, tons of taxis in the community, you know, they advertise, you know. We're also at the season of graduation. And I was at the KSS graduation last night. You know, young people, and it gets to be a little bit scary when you've been doing that for so long. Like, what do we do next as a community?
But like I said earlier, Dwayne and Jody, they run an excellent police department, and they do their best to try and do as much prevention as possible, whether it be PR stuff or actual spot checks on the road. So yeah, they do what they can, and we just hope for the best.
And I know Operation Lookout's been here for years, you know, that, you know, to remind people. It's just, I guess, just to remind people to be diligent, you know, that everybody gets affected no matter what, no matter who's involved. You know, we're all affected by that. And it's just something that's an important topic, you know. Any other topics or any?
No, thank you for having me again.
Thank you so
like
much
I
for
said,
dropping in. This is great.
when I have a little more follow up when it comes to the hydro in Kahnawake, those are big files that I'm working on, as well as housing. So it could be a month, 6 weeks from now. I'll come back.
I noticed that they put a posting for a general manager. I thought that was, again, another good step.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we need some major changes there. We have to gain the trust back of communities, so we have to restructure and put some new faces in there with new ideas, and let's move forward and hope for the best in the future for housing for our community.
Okay. Thank you, Carl, for joining me. Up next with the 1 o'clock news is Kathleen Speckard. Have a great afternoon, everybody. On Igiwahi.